Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joe Tyrrell and welcome back to the Run Off the GP Blog podcast. It's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend and joining me as ever is Toby. Toby, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Joe. How are you?
I am very well, Toby. I'm even better to announce a very familiar face, or you might not have seen him back in the day on the undercut, but Adam Newton, a GP Blog legend, is returning to make his debut on the Run Off. Adam, welcome.
Lovely to be back on the GP Blog podcast, and pleased you got through that intro first time, Joe.
It's quite possibly the first time I've ever done it in one take.
Didn't used to happen back in the undercut days, that's for
Back
sure.
in the undercut days, I used to say all sorts, GP Blog podcast, GP Pod, anything, but I'm a one take wonder now, so nothing to worry about there.
Yep.
Yeah. So it is, as I mentioned, it is Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. And Toby, 2 weeks ago, we sat here and you said it was a great season opener. It was a good vibe. And I think it's fair to say our outlook on Formula One this weekend is slightly different to what it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say quickly, I thought that the start of the race was exciting, and then apart from that, it kind of just tailed off quite quickly. And I think both of you might potentially agree with that.
Yeah, Adam, you didn't pick a great week to make your return.
No, I didn't. And I'll be honest with you, Joe, if I wasn't coming on this podcast, I think after about 25 laps, I might have started watching something else because that was just not very interesting at all.
Yeah, I think it was inevitable that Perez was probably going to win as soon as Verstappen got his penalty, and Perez did exactly that and was never really in doubt, was it? Let's be honest.
The only bit of excitement really was Fernando Alonso pipping him off the line, but then basically as soon as the first lap was over, the race stewards announced that it was under investigation for not starting in the correct position. So that kind of excitement just went straight away. And then Perez just kind of kicked in and the Red Bull pace was just unbelievable.
Yeah, that Red Bull is ridiculous, isn't it, Adam?
Well, it's getting to the point where you kind of think, are they as good as Mercedes ever was? I know we recency bias and all that, but you go back to 2014 where I believe Mercedes were probably at their strongest, possibly 2020 as well. But the domination for a guy to come from 15th on the grid and be so comfortable, and then a safety car midway through the race, and the two guys just disappear. You never saw them again. Alonso never saw the back of Verstappen after about 5 laps after the safety car went in. It was ridiculous.
Like he just glided past them, these people. Like he makes quality drivers look a bit silly, really, because you've got Hamilton, Leclerc, and Verstappen. It's not even a competition. Like, was it lap 12 he passed Hamilton? And it wasn't even a competition. Like, obviously Verstappen, let's be honest, he is a very good driver, but he's not.
Whoa, that's a hot take, Joe.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, we don't do the hot take section anymore, but that might be my argument if it was. But he's making very good drivers look a bit silly, really. And well, that's just Verstappen. Like, we haven't even mentioned how good Perez was.
Yeah. And Perez, who is a very good driver in his own right, but he's not a Verstappen or a Hamilton.
Yeah.
Made it look easy. And he also zoomed away from the field as soon as he regained that lead.
Yeah. Toby, a word for Perez. We'll go into him a bit more maybe in the winners and losers, but a word for Perez. Very, very solid drive. And when he was under a bit of pressure, when Max was putting in good laps, he fought back and put in good laps himself.
Yeah, it was just like I think to be honest, I don't really remember what I said like a minute ago because it's just the race has kind of just muddled my brain a bit. But Perez's pace was just really good from the go. And it was quite interesting when he was behind Alonso for the 2 or 3 laps at the start. You could just see how quick that Red Bull is on the straights, but also how easy it was for Perez to get around Alonso. And then as soon as he did that, it was like, all right, see you later. And all he had to do was make sure that he just continued to put in consistent laps, which he did. So I don't think you could take anything away from Perez at all. I know we've mentioned how good Verstappen was, but at the end of the day, if Perez had maybe made 1 or 2 mistakes, Verstappen could have easily caught up and maybe taken that lead off him. So big shout out to Perez for putting in consistent laps and making sure he held his lead and managed to get the win.
Yeah. Their nearest rival this weekend was... Sorry, go on, Adam. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Toby, I agree exactly with what you said. You have to give Perez a lot of credit because Verstappen never got near him. And there was a decent chance that Verstappen could have, as he did to every other driver that got in his way, come up to the back of him, glide past, easy win, 2 out of 2. See you later.
Yeah, because it's fair to say if Verstappen had got in front of Perez, that would have been game over.
Game over, done.
There wouldn't have been any fight. But no, fair play to him. Red Bull's nearest rival this weekend was once again the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. And they had a mixed weekend because Lance Stroll had what appeared to be a brake failure or something. Brakes were on fire. They were putting out fire on his brakes.
I saw that. They used a fire extinguisher on the front right. I'm not sure what actually happened, but I saw that at least.
Yeah. So, and then Alonso obviously has had 2 penalties and been demoted. So it's kind of a mixed weekend for them, really. So much potential, but a bit unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they'll still be happy with a 4th place, but they're going to be really annoyed that they didn't get a podium. It's just that the thing that surprised me is that it happened to Ocon last week, where they thought they'd served the 5-second penalty, and then got given a 10-second penalty because they started too early. Is this something that F1 now needs to start looking at? Because from what Crofty and a lot of people say from the paddock is that the team principal, someone will sit on the pit wall using a stopwatch and will literally start it when it gets in. We'll go 5 seconds and then we'll communicate to start working on the car. But if that's caused a penalty twice in a row, is this something that maybe needs to be changed? It's just something I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I can't remember the last time this ever happened. And then twice in 2 weeks, we have someone out of position on the grid. And then we have the same person not serving their penalty correctly. So I don't know whether they're just too eager to make sure it's 5.01 seconds rather than 5.2 seconds, for example, and they just stray the wrong side of the line. But it is really for me, I mean, I'm not an expert or a mechanic. It's a really silly mistake to lose 10 seconds for the sake of half a second. It's just not worth it. Take 6 seconds and be safe.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just be safe. But I guess that's Formula One for you, all about the fine margins, isn't it? They're always trying to push it. But I think Aston Martin were a bit confused because they very much felt they had done the 10 seconds, done the 5 seconds, and they're now looking into it with their team, with the stewards and stuff. So the result might still get changed. Who knows? It's Formula One. Anything's really possible. But yeah, I think our expectations of Formula One slightly tempered this weekend. Let's go on to our winners and losers now. We won't wait around. Mercedes, Toby, they have looked pretty terrible for 2 weeks, yet they are your winner.
Yeah, I just thought it was obviously the penalty helped, but compared to yesterday and what Toto Wolff was saying after qualifying, where he expected them to be kind of really just not really fighting for a podium, to now finishing 3rd and 5th, I think they'll be very happy. It's a good points haul compared to Aston Martin and Ferrari. So I just think overall it's a decent weekend for them, especially when you compare it to yesterday.
Yeah, solid weekend for Mercedes. Adam, a word on the Russell Hamilton duel, will you? It's maybe hotting up a little bit there.
Yeah, well, we did see Hamilton wanting Russell to get out of his way, should we put it that way? But Russell has proven that he's a top quality driver, and at the end of the day, maybe it was the right call for Russell to stay ahead. I have to say that I'm very impressed by both drivers. Obviously we expect it from Hamilton being so experienced, but Russell, the younger guy, gets his promotion, doesn't quite go the way he expects. Maybe he could think, I'm really annoyed now. I just don't want to do what the team tells me. I want to win races. But he's kept his head in the game, and fair play to him. Got the podium today, well deserved.
He seems to be putting himself in positions to make the most of any mistakes.
Absolutely,
he doesn't seem to.
We saw Brazil,
other than Brazil is a good example. Adam, go on.
He was in the right place at the right time, had the development in the car, and he did the job. And I think, Red Bull looks so far ahead at the moment, but it's a long season, especially this year. So I don't want to rule out him doing a similar thing, maybe at a similar time of the year this year.
Yeah, Mercedes are going to certainly need a lot of development, though, aren't they, Toby?
Yeah, the car yesterday looked pretty bad. And from what Hamilton and kind of what Russell and Wolf as well, what they all said was it was not performing anywhere to what they expected. But the one thing that I found interesting about the car today was when Verstappen actually overtook Russell, and Crofty made a comment as though it looked like an F1 car overtaking an F2 or an F3 car. And that kind of stood out to me because the fact that he's comparing Red Bull and Mercedes, which last year and years past an immense battle at the top, to now saying that the Mercedes is an F2 or F3 car really shows how they are struggling and also how good Red Bull are.
Yeah, Mercedes have a lot to turn around, but I'm hoping for the sake of my predictions, they do turn it around. Otherwise, I look very silly again. Adam.
Yep.
Alpine.
Yeah.
2 teams this week for our winners, and you've gone with Alpine.
Yeah. I think quietly very strong. While all the focus is on Aston Martin as that team in the midfield that breaks through, Alpine, 2 cars in the points, probably as good as they could have done. Really, you have that top 7 of Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes plus Alonso, and there they are in 8th and 9th. We saw Gasly with a really good race performance in Bahrain. Ocon decided to implode, which we didn't learn anything about Alpine from Ocon in Bahrain. But this week, we didn't really see him on the telly. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. They didn't get in trouble. They weren't, didn't have anyone come up behind them wanting to overtake. So I think it's positive signs. And if we have a bit more drama at the front, they can be in for some serious points.
I think we should get used to Alpine not being on the TV, to be honest, because I feel like they're so much better than the midfield and quite a lot worse than the top 7. So I think there's points to be gained there, and they'll be in place if any of the top 6 or 7 cars retire. Really,
I think they seem to be in a really weird place right now. Sort of, it's like a place of their own. Just you have the top 4 teams, Red Bull obviously ahead, then the next 3, and then you just have this island of Alpine.
the island of Alpine.
And I find it amazing how in what we've come to realize is such a tight midfield with, 5, 6 teams all capable of coming 5th, 6th on any given weekend. That to me looks like Alpine's zone this year.
Yeah, it's almost best of the rest is almost theirs to lose unless Ferrari regress. Yeah. But it's theirs to lose because McLaren don't look anywhere. Losers. Toby, I'll come back to you. You can say this again. Lando Norris is a loser. Is it the second week in a row, or did we have it as just McLaren last week?
I think it might have been McLaren last week. And I did have McLaren down, but then I was like, Oscar Piastri at least had a decent qualifying yesterday, so I'll let him off this week. But Lando Norris just struggled again. I don't know what the problem is, really. I know he had to pit early on because he had to change his front wing. Not sure what that was caused by. And then from that point, it was literally just quite a boring race. I don't think I heard his name mentioned more than twice or two or 3 times, maybe. Sorry. I don't really know what's going on with McLaren. I just think Lando Norris had a bit of a shocker, so I put him as my loser.
No, I completely agree. He was second last of the drivers that finished. Got overtaken by his teammate at one point. Finished behind Logan Sargent. Adam, that is another miserable weekend for Norris.
Yeah. Toby, I can fully get behind that. You have a guy, your teammate. I've got a lot of good things to say about Oscar Piastri, but in his second race in F1 after a year out, to be out-qualified comfortably and then beaten in the race comfortably by, a guy in his second race. For someone like Lando Norris, who we all big up to be this future star, this in the same bracket as Russell, Leclerc, and a few others. Start of this season hasn't been good for him. We know he had the reliability in Bahrain, but expected a kickback here, and it just didn't happen for him.
Yeah, it didn't happen at all. A bit of a debate that's been brewing for the last, 2 weeks, maybe going back into pre-season testing as well, is at what point does Lando Norris sort of consider his future, and what are his options? Because if he is in that bracket of Leclerc, Russell, obviously Verstappen's in a league of his own. But if he is in that sort of section of drivers, and McLaren aren't delivering for him at the minute, what does he do? Does he look at leaving? And who do you think who would take him on?
I think what we have to say for this is, say it comes to the end of the season and Lando isn't happy at McLaren and he's looking for somewhere else to go. We had those links with Mercedes a little while ago. But what if Piastri keeps this up? What if Piastri beats Norris this season? Do then Mercedes, let's say Lewis Hamilton retires, which isn't outside the realms of possibility, or moves on, which also is not completely impossible, will they say, oh, hang on a minute, we've got a guy here who's a little bit younger and potentially a little bit better? Do they bypass Norris and take Piastri?
I'd never really thought of that, but that is when you think about it, that is a possibility if those Mercedes links are still as strong as they were a few years ago. What do you think, Toby?
It's a tough one. I agree with what you're saying, Adam. I think that could totally happen as well. There's a very good chance that if McLaren maybe have a chance to score some points this season, which doesn't look likely at the moment, but if they do and it is Piastri that scores them over Norris, I think Lando could lose a fair bit of credibility. I know that this is probably quite as hot of a take as anything, but there's a good chance that Lando Norris could fall out of that really hot prospect kind of section of F1 if this year doesn't go well. But then at the same time, you have to, I think, take into consideration how bad McLaren is this year, because at the same time as he's not maybe making the most out of the car, if they aren't putting a car out for him to perform, then you can't really look at the point stats, I think. But then again, where could he go? I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
what
sure.
I mean. Like, what other teams are going to bin off a driver to take on Norris? Like, I don't really like. I don't know where he goes. Like, I don't know whether it's because I just struggle to see him somewhere else other than McLaren. But I don't know where he goes.
Just to before I get slaughtered in the comments for what I just said, let me just say that Lando Norris has a lot of credit in the bank. He's done really good things in the, how long is it? 4 years he's been in Formula One. So he's got a lot of credit in the bank, and I'm just speculating here. But you're right, Joe. There's not a lot of seats available. Would Red Bull want to take someone like Norris? Would they fear that he would upset the Red Bull Max Verstappen duo that's so dominant? Ferrari look very comfortable with their two drivers. Mercedes is, possibly will be an opening. But then where else does he look? Aston Martin, if they keep it up, how long can Fernando Alonso go? I know he's got a 2-year deal, but what if he gets a taste for it and thinks, you know what, I'll just keep going? Because let's be honest, he might. But yeah, Lando Norris is a great driver, and I think maybe we're being a bit hasty on it, but still he's got to perform. Everyone's got to perform or you're out.
Everyone has got to perform. And Lando Norris is no different. And he's a loser this week. Adam, this is another big loser, to be fair. This is up there because they've gone backwards from where everyone thought they were. Ferrari are a big loser.
Yes. Yeah, what can we say? Apparently the second fastest team, they definitely didn't look like it today. They look like fourth fastest maximum. Yeah, Leclerc had that penalty from qualifying, but I know we can't really compare Red Bull and Ferrari, but Verstappen comes through the field quite easily from further back on the grid. Leclerc doesn't make progress. Sainz doesn't do anything. And you have to question, is there something seriously fundamentally wrong with that team? Fred Vasseur's come in, he's got a great track record. And if he can't turn it around, then we need to look deeper.
Yeah. Do you think there are deep problems there, Toby?
I don't think I have the capacity of F1 knowledge to comment on if there's a deep problem. But all I'll say on this is that Carlos Sainz has had a shocking weekend. Definitely one to forget for him. He was stinky yesterday. I know I'm firing all my shots at Carlos Sainz here, but he, compared to Leclerc, like, he was absolute rubbish.
P4 starting place. To be fair, the Ferrari looks good on Saturday, but it just looks shocking on Sunday.
But Sainz still didn't look great on Saturday. It literally was his final lap of qualifying that he managed to pull it out the bag. But all of the other ones were really tight finishes for him.
Yeah. No, it doesn't look good for Ferrari. And I mean, to be fair, Ferrari will persist with Leclerc. Whether Leclerc wants to persist with Ferrari is another question. But he's another one who he probably needs to get some solid results. He's got credit in the bank as well, obviously, probably. At least I assume so. But he probably needs some results this year as well, doesn't he? Could do with more than one race win.
Yeah, Ferrari seems to like him. He seems to fit in. Leclerc seems to like him, but it's not about who you like, it's about the results you get. I'm sure there's been lots of teammates working together that don't like each other very much, but they come together and make a great team. And if Sainz isn't that guy, then Ferrari have to act quickly, really, and really quickly.
Yeah, they do need to act quickly. But the season's a long one. We'll wait and see. Adam, one last loser from you.
Me.
The fans.
Yeah, me for watching that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you two and several people around the world. It just wasn't a spectacle we expect really from the Jeddah track, which we've seen.
Yeah, well, it's set
really
up to provide fireworks.
Absolutely. We've seen some great stuff at Jeddah in the past. And whether it's just the fact there wasn't really a battle for the lead this time, whereas we've had two great battles for the lead in previous years, it just didn't fire. As Toby said earlier in the podcast, the start was good. Seeing Alonso into turn one was fun. Seeing Perez get back past him was fun. And from there, it didn't really happen. And they even tried to spice it up with a safety car, which probably wasn't needed when Stroll went off. Thought, I reckon they're in race control thinking this race is stinky. We need to do something. Press that safety car button.
That's what they have, the big red safety car
button. Big red safety car button, and they smashed that button, and it didn't even spice it up that much anyway. So yeah, it was a real shame because we always have high hopes for this race, and this week it didn't pay off at all.
No, Toby, I'm not even going to come to you. We're going to keep it at that. We'll move on to Australia. What happened in 2022? Toby, can you tell me?
I can. I'll keep it short and sweet. Leclerc was on pole, led every race. No, not led every race. Sorry,
no, he definitely
did not. Led every lap and then won. Sainz and Verstappen had to retire early. That's really all that happened. It was an early race, and I don't really remember it apart from that, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't remember it. Adam, have you got any fond memories of Australia 2022?
I will be honest, Joe. In previous years, I would have done, but I'm 99% confident I did not wake up for that one and just watch the highlights later in the day.
Yeah, I think that's what I did last year as well, to be honest. But I think I'm getting up for this one this year. So Albert Park, Melbourne, please provide a good race.
Please.
What do we think of the Albert Park circuit? Adam, you're pretty good on circuits. Do you like Albert Park? I'm never too sure on it.
Do you know what? I used to like it. I used to enjoy Albert Park, but I think that was mainly because it was the first race of the season.
Mm.
And you could do the first race of the season on the most boring track to ever exist. You could do the first race of the season in Sochi, and people would still be interested and would still enjoy it because it's new colors, it's new drivers, it's new graphics on the screen. Everything's different. You just take it all in for a bit and you enjoy it. But as the third race of the season or second race last year, I don't remember, you don't have that same excitement of the start of the season anymore. You're in the rhythm, you're into the season. And let's be honest, the track doesn't inspire me. The 4 DRS zones this year, I think that tells you everything you need to know about the racing possibilities on this circuit. It's not good. And they made some changes to the track, but for last year, and I don't think they even had a massive impact, and the extra DRS zone also won't have a massive impact.
So we're looking forward to Red Bull being 45 seconds clear of the rest of the field.
Can't wait.
Speaking of predictions, that's one of them. 45 seconds clear Red Bull. Let's get into our predictions. Last week, Toby, can you remember everyone's predictions? I can remember I got Perez on pole. I didn't get a Max Verstappen win. And I think I had Gasly top 6. That didn't happen.
I Matt and I both predicted Verstappen pole, Verstappen win. But I can't remember my interesting one.
Matt had Ferrari to crash.
Yeah, which they didn't.
But that didn't happen. That
Well,
didn't happen.
you could say they crashed in a different kind of
Yeah,
way.
they metaphorically crashed. They had a shocker. So unfortunately, Adam, Matt is going into this weekend with 0 points for like the guest team in our predictor series.
Okay, I'm holding.
So you're working as a team this year against me and Toby. The guests.
I was gonna say, if you give me a second quickly, Joe, I'll have a quick look at what I've done for my prediction.
Go on, have a quick look.
Just
we'll
predict yours already.
Oh, okay. I'll predict mine. You know, you go and have a look. While you look, Toby, me and Adam will do our predictions. So I'm going for a Max Verstappen pole. I'm gonna go for a Max Verstappen win. I'm really pushing it out here. And I'm going to predict, to be fair, it got to the point last year where Lewis Hamilton podium was a surprise. We had this conversation last week where we're not quite at that point in the season yet. I'm going to go with, can I have a Haas top 7?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to go Haas top 7. What's Toby smirking about?
I predicted Lando Norris top 10.
Oh, right.
We actually let you have that, and it's awful. We shouldn't have let you have it because of how bad it was. Lando Norris top 10, Toby, you've had a shocker.
Oh my goodness. I was hopeful.
Not only is Lando Norris your loser, you also predicted him to finish in the top 10.
You predicted him to be a winner.
Yeah. Right, so I'm going Verstappen, Magnussen top 7. Adam, fire away.
Right, well, I think after Matt's shocking performance last week, we really need to get some points on the board for the guests, and I hope I'll be back later in the year to try and
absolutely
see how well Toby's doing. So, Joe, I think I'm going to have to copy you. Verstappen pole, Verstappen win. I can't see anything else happening, and I'll be honest, the problem in qualifying is the only thing that stopped Matt getting 2 points this weekend. And then my outlandish prediction, I'm going to say, if you'll allow me to have it, is a rookie will score points.
Yeah, so we'll give you that.
Either of Piastri, De Vries, or Logan Sargent would be in the top 10. That's my. That's
a good shout, because considering they're 14th, 15th, and 16th this week.
Yeah, there you go then.
Yeah, you can have that. And Toby, I'll come to you last.
I would love to be different, but I have to go Verstappen pole and win.
It's so depressing.
Yeah, if we got to a point last year where I think all of us were choosing different people for pole and win just because we couldn't be bothered to say Verstappen.
I think for about 6 weeks in a row, I picked a Mercedes driver for pole and win.
Interesting prediction. Oh God. Double Aston. No, that's boring. I was going to say double Aston Martin top 5. That's quite boring.
That's boring. I'd have given you podium.
I'm gonna go double. I'll go double Mercedes podium.
Interesting.
Double Mercedes podium. So everyone's got Verstappen. So effectively, it's a toss up between surprises. So if I get, I've forgotten what I went with now.
You went with Magnussen in the top 7.
K-Mag top 7. Adam's gone.
Rookie's in the points.
Rookie in the points, and Toby's gone Mercedes double podium. Someone could be in points next week.
I like that, Toby. I like it.
Right,
I think Perez is going to crash. Perez is going to crash, and then it will allow Russell to slide into
Perez doesn't crash often. I can't remember the last time Perez crashed.
Well, I was going to say Verstappen was going to crash, but then I've remembered that I predicted him to win, so I can't really.
He's going to be about a mile in front of everyone. He's going to have nobody near him. But lads, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you to Adam for making his return. Adam, you'll definitely be back on later in the season. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for hosting again. As usual, great host. Good to be here.
Yeah, I am the GOAT. The self-proclaimed GOAT. Toby, thank you as ever for joining us.
Cheers, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Run Off, the GP Blog podcast. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Michael, No, Mike, that was so not right. Get in there, Lewis. Russell. Qualified Mr. Hamilton.
You are